What's up guys, Lon here from Android Authority, and the latest product from Samsung comes in collaboration with Google and is in the form of a Chromebook or Chromebooks. And this is the very first Chromebook to be built from the ground up with support for Android apps. And it also comes with a built-in stylus that Google says makes this Chromebook especially good for multimedia and productivity purposes. But let's find out how good it actually is. This is the Samsung Chromebook Pro. We saw quite a few Chromebooks back at CES 2017, but Samsung's Chromebooks definitely were some of the most appealing ones at the show and are going to be some of the more high-end Chromebooks you'll be able to get your hands on this year. This is the Chromebook Pro, but there's also a Plus version, and functionally and aesthetically they're exactly the same, but with the Plus model you get an ARM processor, while the Pro version here comes with a more powerful Intel Core M3 processor. On the outside, it's got an all-metal build that gives the Chromebook Pro a very high-quality feel. On top of its metal design, it's extremely lightweight at just under 2.5 pounds, and it's also not very thick at only 13.9 millimeters, so it's very thin, very lightweight and compact in size, and can easily fit in a backpack or a messenger bag without weighing you down. If you really want to, it's also pretty comfortable to just carry around in your hands, so portability is easily one of the best things about the Chromebook Pro. Obviously, with this compact size, it's not going to have the largest keyboard or trackpad, but I think Samsung did a pretty decent job given the size limitation. The keyboard is still spacious enough to comfortably type on, and they're chiclet style keys with a fair amount of travel, and if you look closely, all the keys have a slight curve that make them contour better to your fingers. The trackpad itself works well for the most part, and I didn't have any issues with the size of it, but I do wish that it had pinch to zoom functionality, and the feedback on it could be better, as it doesn't really give you that satisfying click when you press down on it, but the trackpad does support light taps if you'd rather use that instead of physically clicking the trackpad. The biggest Achilles heel to the Chromebook Pro is the speakers. You'll find two speaker grills sitting on the bottom side towards the corners, and aside from being in a position where they can easily be muffled from sitting on a table, desk, or even your own lap, they simply don't get very loud and can be tough to hear in a room with any sort of ambient noise. Given how thin and light the Chromebook Pro is, it still comes with a decent amount of ports. On the left side, you have a 3.5mm headphone and mic jack, a USB Type-C port, and a micro SD card slot. On the right side, you've got the power button, a volume rocker, and a second USB Type-C port, both of which work for charging and data transfer, but you can also use these ports to output 4K content to an external monitor or TV. I like that there's a USB Type-C port on both the left and the right side, so you can pick whichever side is more convenient for charging based on the positioning of your wall outlets, especially if you're trying to use it while it's charging. On the right side, you also get something that you don't normally see on a Chromebook, and that is the inclusion of a stylus. The stylus looks exactly like the S Pen from Samsung's Galaxy Note line. It's the same size with the same top that clicks in and out, and the only difference that you'll find is that it doesn't have a button on the side. The included stylus brings quite a bit of functionality to the Chromebook, some of which is very similar to what we saw on Samsung's Note 7 before it disappeared. You can use it to capture a specific portion of the screen, take a screen grab, use it as a magnifying glass, and it also functions as a laser pointer, which lets you move and point the stylus all around the screen without interacting with any of the content. You can also, of course, draw or write notes with the stylus, and it has direct integration with Google Keep. There's built-in optical character recognition, so anytime you write a note, you can turn that handwritten note into regular text or conduct a search for any notes you've previously written. Being able to convert handwritten notes into text is a convenient feature, but it can be pretty buggy with the text recognition. Sometimes it gets the conversion 100% correct, but more often than not, it either doesn't recognize the text at all no matter how clearly you write, or it only converts part of what you wrote. Something that many people are going to wonder is if the stylus actually adds any real value to the Chromebook Pro, and although the majority of my usage with the stylus has consisted of just using it as a surrogate finger, I do think that a stylus makes more sense on this type of device than it does on a phone. On those few occasions where I did need to jot something down, I could comfortably write on the screen and rest my palm on it without worrying about blocking what I was trying to write due to having more screen real estate to work with. The screen on the Chromebook Pro is an LED panel at 12.3 inches with a resolution of 2400 by 1600, which makes it a Quad HD screen, but if you're wondering why the resolution sounds a little bit off, it's because it has an aspect ratio of 3:2, giving you more vertical space to work with, which is great when you're reading web articles, and it also gives you a wider screen when using it in portrait. It's a rich and vibrant screen with great colors, extremely wide viewing angles, and gets bright enough that you can still comfortably see it if you happen to use it outside. The coolest part about the display is that you can rotate it 360 degrees on its hinge, allowing you to prop the Chromebook in a tent position that's great for watching YouTube, movies, or Netflix, or you can take full advantage of the touchscreen and fold it over completely to use it as a tablet. Alongside the Intel Core M3 processor, the Chromebook Pro also comes with 4GB of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage, and performance is very smooth with operations within Chrome OS itself. Even with a lot of tabs opened, it never showed any signs of getting slow or laggy. Where it starts to get hairy is with Android apps, but this is more likely an issue with Android apps at the moment and not necessarily the hardware powering the Chromebook. Although the Chromebook Pro or Plus are the first Chromebooks to run Android apps out of the box, it's still in beta, which means the experience isn't going to be flawless. While social media apps like Facebook and Twitter do work, the experience, especially with scrolling, can be choppy, and there are many apps, particularly games, that fail to even load. The ones that do load currently don't run all that smoothly, especially if it's a more graphically intensive game, and many apps tend to have issues with properly rotating between landscape and portrait when trying to use the Chromebook as a tablet. Unlike a phone or tablet where apps can take up the entire screen, I do like that a good majority of Android apps on Chrome OS can be ran in a minimized or smaller window for easier multitasking between applications, and it allows the Chromebook to still feel like a computer as it's meant to be, instead of just a tablet with a keyboard attached. Android apps on Chrome OS has a lot of promise, and due to having access to everything on Google Play, I love the extra functionality that it brings both in terms of multimedia and productivity, but until it's out of beta and all the bugs are ironed out, it's not going to be the showcase that Google or Samsung wants it to be. Samsung quotes the battery life of the Chromebook Pro at 8 hours, but I would say it ranges anywhere between 8 to 10 hours because the Chromebook Pro did very well in getting me comfortably through a full workday. With the exception of editing photos or videos, this pretty much became my primary work machine, and that typically consists of checking and responding to emails, communicating with my colleagues on Slack, and writing down notes or scripts on Google Docs. And on top of all that, I'm doing the typical stuff like watching YouTube videos and checking social media apps like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pretty regularly throughout the day. And I only had to charge the Chromebook Pro once a night, and it was always good to go for the entire day. That's a huge shift from my MacBook Pro, which is my normal work machine, and I typically have to charge that 2 to 4 times a day. It just sort of depends on what I'm doing. So if your usage is anything less than mine, you might be able to stretch the battery life out a little bit further with a few extra hours into the following day before having to plug it back in. The Chromebook Pro won't be available till sometime later this year, but if you can't wait for the Pro version, the Plus model will be available starting this month for $449. The price of the Pro version is still unknown, but it's safe to say that it's going to cost more, so these Chromebooks are certainly in the upper tier, at least in terms of price. They do, however, offer a lot for that price. You're getting the simplicity of Chrome OS, but with an included stylus, a rotating touchscreen, and access to all of Google Play, the Chromebook Pro can be the simple machine when you want it to be, or become a more than capable multimedia/productivity workhorse, and that's really the beauty of this collaboration between Samsung and Google. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this review of the Samsung Chromebook Pro, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. We definitely appreciate it, and also subscribe to the channel, which is also down below if you haven't already, and check us out on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Google+, all that good stuff will be linked down below, and feel free to follow me on social media as well. And as always, check out the website for more in-depth coverage, AndroidAuthority.com, because we are your source for all things Android.